Thank you to the source of creation, the birther of the multiverse, for being this live webinar. Thank you to the amazing, incredible infinity of expressions of that one singularity. Thank you to everyone's divine presence in this webinar, that infinity within each one of us coming together as a wholeness, and blessing this session with the ability to work concisely and effectively and profoundly, to do the most important work that needs to be done, to bless everyone and to bless the world and to bless back to that source of creation. And of course, through us to all the ancestors and all the rest of humanity. Thank you everyone for being with me. Thank you to the holy tradition of knowledge that has been in creation since the beginning of time. All right. So, hello. I told them how wonderful you are. Oh my God. So for those who missed, my dearest Nick is here. And he says to me, he came in just now because he was on the street corner doing healings for everyone for 45 minutes. How adorable is that, eh? Okay. I won't pump you up anymore. Anyway, all right. So today's topic is falling in love with divine being. Now, just for everybody new today, the 1 minute recap of what is energy work. Energy work or energy healing is directing attention intelligently in order to expand and express infinite source of creation in wherever the area is that is not experiencing itself as complete. And the thing about the attention is that it directs really easily, because all we need to use is our conscious intention, and our attention just goes. Wherever you put your attention, boom, your attention's there. It's very spontaneous and we don't have to try to do it. And attention is that bit, it's that part of infinite being or divine being, which we have ultimate control over where it goes and how it moves and where we put it and where we place it or where it flows. So that's a cool thing. It's like a power. It's a tool. It's a tool, being able to direct our attention. And the intention itself is wholeness. And when it falls on something, it activates or expands that quality of wholeness or totality on that thing on which it falls. It makes it grow. It's like putting fertilizer and rain and sunshine on something. All right, so that's the basic premise behind energy healing. If you want to know more about where and how we direct our attention, all that, I am re-filming my energy work fundamentals right now, and I think we've got 2 videos up, but the first 2 videos are the most important, so you can check those out on YouTube. Those just went up in the last couple of weeks. Everybody can ask questions. There is a place in the upper left-hand corner of your screen where you can click to send in a question, which will be handled anonymously. And everyone, you can also adjust your audio if you need to. Everyone will receive recordings of both yesterday's session and today's session. And for most people, that's going to come in on Vimeo. Let's see. I want to do just a kind of a quick recap of yesterday too, because everybody want to bring everybody up to speed. I know we've got a lot of repeat customers from yesterday, and God bless all of you on the webinar subscription program, bringing the cost of the webinars down to about $8 each. That's really cool. Plus other little perks and blessings along with that. So thank you for being with me in real time. But the points from yesterday that I wanted to go over again and kind of expand on a little bit falling in love with something concrete is easy for us in our human condition. Falling in love with beautiful art, or falling in love with beautiful music, or beautiful people, or delicious food, or anything like that, this is a kind of a given in a sense. It's something that most people understand the premise of falling in love, particularly with something that that our senses can fall upon and we can clearly define. But falling in love with divine being is more abstract, because divine being is infinite, unbounded, and unmanifest. And so it's not it's a different animal. It's a different kind of falling in love with divine being than falling in love with something concrete. So the two areas of the webinar cover the falling in love part and the healings to activate, enliven, and support the channels of the flow of consciousness within us that allow the falling in love process to happen more effectively and more efficiently and more beautifully and more powerfully, more intensely. The other part of the webinar is to really take a deeper look at this sort of this divine being, which is a little gets away from you, you know. It's abstract. And how do we move these two values together? The value of being able to fall in love in a way we could never fall in love before, with something that we can't even clearly define. So we don't have to define divine being, because divine being defines itself. Divine being is engaged in a loop of self-commentary constantly. It comments on its own nature, and that process of self-commentary, the collapse of infinite, unbounded, unmanifest nature of creation, nature of being, into a distinct point of expression. And that distinct point of expression is expressing the inexpressible, gives us 2 points of reference in the flow of the manifesting process. And we can look at them as being at a very abstract level of creation, but we can also kind of look at them in the context of this manifestation schematic that we've created, where you have infinite being at the bottom of the screen, and you have manifest creation at the top of the screen, and the infinite divine being comments on itself, and it gives expression to some value that's definable, and that is a point of reference. And then that description is describing the indescribable. So there is a flow going in one direction, and there's a flow going in the other direction, and they're moving back and forth on each other at infinite speed, and the infinite speed gives rise to friction, and the friction is the energy of infinite energy source of creation, because that flow is going constantly. And yesterday we spent some time sort of examining the nature of this infinite energy source, the seed. It's like a seed of the manifestation of creation. And the seed can take on different flavors or qualities, particularly, and this moves into the next part of the recap from yesterday, is that any expression that we create, I want to approach this from 2 different angles today, by the way. So this is just the recap angle from yesterday. Any expression, anything that we produce or say or think or express, it goes in both directions simultaneously. One direction is everything that radiates out of us falls into the field of infinite wholeness, totality, and experiences complete fulfillment in that field. It's brought into a state of wholeness. It is expanded to its infinite value. It is enhanced and refined and completed, etc. Everything we express also rises out into the field of the phenomenal world. And as it does so, it touches every little thing out in the creation. And as it touches every little thing out in the creation, it kind of like fragments, because every little thing out in the creation receives that original impulse of our intelligence in its own way, from its own angle, from its own perspective, and then it reflects it back. So we get this effect in the relative field of creation, which is like a mirror with infinite broken shards. You know, that expression of divine totality and divine being goes out and it breaks into zillions and zillions and billions of little pieces, and each piece comes back expressing its own feel of what it was that went out in the first place. And yesterday we went into that field from the level of infinite energy, infinite source of infinite energy. We went out into that field of infinite shards of the broken mirror, and notice that the point that's where the imbalances crop up, because this is basically what I'm doing is I'm an energy healer, right? I mean, I'm defining myself like that. But anyway, one of the things we're doing is we're taking this way of looking at the creation, this paradigm, and we're applying it. In this case, we're applying it to the field of falling in love with divine being. But I have to sneak in a word about healing too, because being able to fall in love with divine being is about being able to self-transmute in such a way as to experience a level of intensity of love that is beyond what is normally experienced in the human condition. We want all of us to be able to live in a flow of love so intense, so profound, so exquisite, that every impulse that comes out of us and that flows back to the field of the divine being and that flows out into the creation as a million broken shards of the mirror is completely, absolutely nourishing, uplifting, and aligned with cosmic evolution and expressive of our full potential. So self-transmuting to get even closer. We're like realigning even closer. So this is all still part of the recap of yesterday. I was going to say something about healing. I feel it has floated away. I'll get it back. Don't worry. It'll come back when the time is right. Anyway, we were talking about our communication and how every impulse of communication is really self-communication, really. You know, when I say something and it bounces off of my speaker over there, bounces off of my microphone here, it comes back to me as the microphone experiences it, or as the speaker experiences it. It doesn't make as much difference to the objects upon which my communication falls as my communication makes to me, because I'm the first one experiencing it, and I'm experiencing it in its totality. So every communication is very, very important for you. This ties into the second way that I wanted to look at this particular aspect of what we radiate out, because we've got two kind of things going on, right? We've got what we experience coming in and what we give out. So we've got these two flows, inner flow and outer flow. A very exquisite lady, I think she's with us this morning, pretty sure, not going to take the time to check, but I believe, brought up this word, which I just love. It's called spiritual hygiene. Ooh, that's a good word, spiritual hygiene. And I realize that there are different levels of spiritual hygiene. So there's a very superficial level of spiritual hygiene, which is, how do I handle just basically hygiene You know, how do I handle my life? You know, do I go out and roll in the mud? Do I put stuff in my body that's toxic? Or do I put clean stuff in my body? Do I do purification with the body? All that. So that's one side of spiritual hygiene. And I know this list of people. I know you guys have got this big list, you know, of everybody who's in on this webinar. And I know that all of you are cognizant of this, and all of you have, many of you for many, many decades have been engaged in the act of maintaining the highest possible spiritual hygiene. So God bless you all for that. It means a lot to me. But there's a deeper level, and that comes down more into what are we radiating out at a sort of a deeper level of the heart? What are we radiating out at a deeper level? Because when it goes out and it breaks into zillions of little pieces, then if what I'm radiating out is 100% aligned with being and natural law and divine being, 100%, then every single reflection is going to come back golden. But if I'm radiating out and some little part of it isn't 100%, then that little bit could radiate all by itself off of a single object in my environment and come back as something that I don't want. And so this ties into the concept of the shards of the broken mirror, which is at the point where the imbalance comes out. Oh, that's what I'd forgotten. The point where the imbalance comes out is the edge of the mirror. It's the edge, because each object, I used my notebook yesterday, so I'm bringing up the notebook again. Each edge, imagine this is a shard of the broken mirror. So we've given something out. It's infinite totality expressing itself through its own antenna, which is you, right? So something beautiful. But it hits against some object or some form in creation and it reflects back. It's around the edge that the distinction is made between wholeness and totality and isolation and, you know, contracted value of the object. It's individuality. It's non-connection to wholeness. So it's at the edge that happens. Yesterday's healing, we went through, and being went through, and it looked into every single edge of every single shard of the broken mirror and woke it up, filled it with light. But what I realized, I always get a lot out of a night's sleep after these things, is that karma comes from those edges. That this is where karma is located. This is where karma sort of like evolves forth in the picture of the created, manifested field. That's why it's considered that karma is unfathomable for the human mind, that it's impossible for a human being to really, really, really fathom the entirety of the field of karma and all its laws of nature associated. It makes sense, because if there are infinite shards of every single thing, every single impulse that we produce, it breaks into infinite pieces, and around every little piece there's this little edge, which is the separation feeling of, oh, infinity has now been contracted down into some little piece like that. That it's a big field. We're dealing with infinities. In the last webinar, the last one on knowing the inside tribe, I brought in the math that goes along with that. Thank you to my son, who's a mathematician and is studying math at the graduate level. So all the fields help illuminate from their own angle, right? That's like another shard. It's the math shard. But the mathematicians, particularly those working on the forefront, are helping us understand infinities from lots of different angles and different ways of looking at it. And I just have to bring in this one point, because I think this kind of stuff is luscious. I love this stuff, which is that there are different kinds of infinities in math. There are various types of sets of infinities, but then there are these things called ordinals. And ordinals are actually cataloging systems for infinities. So you can get mathematical infinities, you can get countable infinities and uncountable infinities, and then you can get these ordinals. And ordinals go in and they make sense out of all the infinities, but the ordinals themselves are also infinite sets. And so this was reminding me of this thing that we were just talking about, of how infinite beings, you've got infinite being down here, and you've got the very subtlest levels of the physiology that can be compared to the various infinite sets, because once you turn it into a set, you know, you've defined it, sort of. So you've got a kind of a manifestation of infinity down there, the countables and the uncountables. And then the ordinals are like the shards of the broken mirror. They are all the ways in which those infinities are defined. And so they're like divine being creating its own self-commentary. The ordinals are the self-commentary on the infinity of divine being. Yeah, too bad his math teacher isn't in on this webinar. Maybe I should send him a copy of it. Maybe we should get together and have tea. Anyway, the point is that falling in love with divine being means knowing divine being intimately. It means recognizing it and delighting in it from all the different angles. Oh, I see there's a question. Sorry, I was so busy talking. Okay. The question wasn't a question. It was just that we've got someone on the webinar who's having technical difficulties. So I'm just looking, and thank you. Thank you. The person who's having technical difficulties that gives us something concrete to focus on, because I've been pretty abstract here for a while, right? Oh, advanced mathematics, dang, that's really abstract. So we're going to go into the technical difficulties that this particular very sweet person is having in their computer. They think it's from their end. Did they take their speaker off of mute? Oh, they're having troubles connecting. So that means a channel, a communication, an area where the communication needs to flow, needs to open up. It was a question after all, wasn't it? So this channel where the communication got blocked for this one person on the webinar, there is, through the technology of the connection between our transmission and their reception, there's the web of life. Oh yeah, that was a big part of yesterday's webinar, which I didn't recap yet. So we need to go into the web of life. And what I'm doing is I'm feeling into, this happened about an hour before last night's webinar, and it was such a big eye-opener for me as I was finishing my evening meditation and just resting, and I suddenly felt myself embraced in the most loving hug by the web of life, and realized the I want to say humanity, but that's not the right word, because the web of life doesn't have a human form, but it's like the living reality of the web of life. I suddenly I just felt as if I could feel into the beating heart of the web of life, its compassion, its ability to embrace all things, its sweetness of nature and its organicness of nature. And so that is the aspect of creation that connects everything to everything. So I'm just appealing. Of course, as soon as I realized that, it was so familiar, right? It was like infinitely familiar and sweet and adorable. And it was like dealing with one's own child, or dealing with one's own self, or dealing with a, beloved family member or something, that there was such this intimate familiarity, and like, oh, well, I always know where you are. There's a sacred space. There's a sacred space within your being, where you are united with the web of life. And that sacred, it's like a holy space. It's like a temple. You can think of it as an energetic temple of your being, where you are and the web of life are in a state of divine union. Divine union. And that web of life is what connects us to our beloved divine being. So it is a precious, essential thing. And that web of life can look into the point where the technical difficulties are, because it's connected to everything. And what I'm seeing it doing is it's the, I have to read you this quote because it's so beautiful. So this person, I leave anonymous, is having technical difficulties. They think it's just their computer, but send their greetings to you and say they are here with you anyway. So feeling into where the awareness wants to fall into this person's physiology. And as we're doing this, it's happening for everyone. And it wants to fall into the heart area, into the heart chest area, and particularly into the actual physical organ of the heart and the circulatory system. And through the channels of the circulatory system, through the point where the heart organ connects to the various veins and arteries, the big arteries that come out of the heart. There are valves and there are junction points right there. And it's the junction points that got clogged up. And in the case of the person who's having technical difficulties, I'm seeing that the junction points got clogged up with energy from the collective, which there's, you see, it's opening up a bigger picture. Thank you. The bigger picture is that there's very interesting, what my sons call InfoWars. I have adult children, almost adult or almost adult children. So my sons call InfoWars, which is that the traditional forms of media, we only just barely touched on this for a sentence yesterday, but evidently it wants to come up a little bit fuller now. The traditional media outlets for information have had to take a backseat to alternative media stations and alternative media outlets. And it all happened really fast, like really fast. So fast, a lot of people did not see it coming. And now a lot of the traditional media outlets are scrambling like crazy because they didn't see that coming very fast, and they didn't protect themselves so that they still had the upper hand on the media and they still had everybody's ear. So there are discordant feelings connected to that. And they are in the field of technology, and they're in the internet. They're actually they get in the lines, they get in the servers, they get in the hardware as well as the software. And of course, with all due respect and honor to the very great traditions of reporting that have been part of our world for eons, actually, and in our most recent century, have been powerful forces of the voice of truth. At least they've done everything they can to reflect truth as well as they can, considering that we're all the expressors are shards of the broken mirror, so God bless everyone in their ability to do that. The only way the media will survive at this point, the only way a media outlet will survive is if they are doing everything they can. This is a message. Everything they can to express totality as completely as possible. Spiritual hygiene it means the deeper expressions are also very pure. I mean, it's one thing, for a person to be like, well, I'm not eating toxic foods, and I'm making sure that I'm rested, and I'm taking care of my physiology, and I don't smoke or drink or do anything like that, and I maintain some kind of moral hygiene and so forth. Oh, there's another spiritual hygiene, moral hygiene, those hand in hand. But we come from long traditions of reporting. The reporters make their money off sensationalism. That was a big discovery in the US in the 1920s, in the crash of the stock market. And a lot of people were really, really poor for a long time. But guess who was making a ton of money? The newspaper guys. They were making so much money. I toured a castle that was created by someone who in the 1920s, when everyone was poor, was making money that was really good money for by today's standards. Sensationalism. So sensationalism, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, I've got my own little shard of the mirror that I'm reflecting back, and I'm going to I want to bend it. I'm going to twist it a little bit so that it creates more of an emotional tug on the people who see my shard. By the way, we're clearing all through the hardware and software through to this person's computer. All these lots and lots of layers of discordant feelings are clearing out of there, and false belief systems and so forth are clearing right now. Also 3Ms. Oh, I can go in and start getting a read on all of it, but it's happening. I want to keep also orienting towards you guys too. So, because this thing about the sensationalism is important with regards to love relationships. We want truth. You want to be able to feel free with the beloved. You want to be able to feel free to ask anything. And you want them to feel free to say no. So, and then you want to feel free to say, I adore you. Thank you for saying what you thought. So, the thing about sensationalism is it'll take a system like that and it'll go, oh no, they asked for something more than they should have. And then, oh no, the other side said no. And it's just, we don't need any of that stuff. We don't need any of that. We don't need any exaggeration or twisting of facts or digressions or bringing in unnecessary, insignificant information. We don't lies. We don't want untruth. So what we need to do is we need to go into this system where we're going into, God knows, we're going into the media. This was about divine love, wasn't it? Okay, we're going into the media anyway, because this is where it wants to go. And remember, every communication is really communication to our own self, right? So what we want to do is we want to clear out all those little threads, all those little bits of karma that might orient towards anything that's not just the pure truth. We want divine being to come through, the value to come through. We want the value to come through. So that's the value right there. The value is infinite being. And all the sensationalism is like frosting. It's frosting on the cake. As long, remember I was saying before, I guess I should try to become a poet, right? As long as the sensationalism enhances and supports and expands and refines the initial value, fine, bring it on. But if the sensationalism is just there to make a person sick, then it's not fine. And our hearts and the hearts of our ancestors have been kind of jerked around a little bit I'm sorry to put it in a way that might not be nice, but there's been a certain amount of that going on for a really long time. Manipulation. And it goes on in families, and it goes on between people who feel like they love each other even. And so all this is up on the table right now for change. All of this is up on the table for change. We can heal it. This is a huge, this is the value of the live webinar, you guys. That these are the kind of massive healings which, as a collective, we are adept at performing. I am not performing this healing. I am the reporter of what is being performed. Being is performing this healing. But being is able to take on something massive because of us. Because of us. We are together with this thing. And I know I don't really need to spell out word for word what would be the value of clearing this out of the collective consciousness, because it's pretty obvious that if we strip away all the extraneous material that comes through the communication channels and we get to a pure expression, divine being commenting on its own nature, its commentary, then we redefine the web of life in such a way that it's healthier. Because it's through the web of life that all these communications flow, right? The web of life is this amazing life force being thing, which is so abstract that it's not crushed or crumbled or damaged in any way by all the little I shouldn't call them little, because in some people's lives they're big things, but all the things that we deal with at a human physical material level of our world, which are challenging to us. It's beyond that, it's beyond all that stuff. But it's completely embracing. It can embrace everything. Like there's a saying in Vedic literature, Brahman consumes everything. Brahman is all consuming. Just, oh, this is nasty, I'll eat it. That's fine, I got that one. So, but this beautiful thing that we call the web of life, which exists, this is an extension. Remember, I told people that this webinar is in yesterday's session, that this webinar is kind of an extension of a lot of the work that we did in the previous one, which was the previous webinar, which was Knowing the Inside Tribe, where we went into a lot of detail of understanding the collective level of the physiology. But that collective level, that's where the web of life origin, where we kind of identify it, where we can find it, where we find its home, that temple, that sacred space where you are in union with the web of life is right there at the collective level of the field of consciousness. This is who is healing. Who is healing? The web of life is healing. Our consciousness as a collective, as this amazing and powerful, these webinars keep getting more, I'm not going to hold up my paper again, but keep getting more and more powerful because there's so many people on them. Like every month, it's more. So thank you. Anyway, we're healing the web of life by dissolving, and how I'll explain the mechanics of how we're doing this. Everybody's causal level of the physiology has organs that produce specific effects. Remember, I was saying whatever you radiate, you're the beacon. So what you radiate, it goes up into the relative level of creation, it goes down into the subtle level of creation. Medicines, they're light medicines produced in the causal level of the physiology, which are radiating into the collective level of the physiology. Where is the web of life? And they have this medicine is being produced, this light quality. It's a very pure thing because what's happening is divine being is folding up, it's doing a commentary on itself, but not all the way at the surface. It's doing a commentary just up to the causal level of your physiology. This is your beings are doing this. You are doing this. And it's producing a certain flavor of communication, a certain quality of consciousness, which dissolves the just the little, it's like they're like all these roots or threads, or they're more like roots. If you look at the edges where the karma is, okay, you can think of them like roots. And so that some of them are thicker than others, and we're going in for a really thick one here. And this root is in the collective consciousness of mankind, and it is this aspect of like hitting on the tenderness of the human nature to be compassionate and empathetic, and creating this sensationalism effect in the way information is presented to us. And it has been happening for a long time. It's been happening at least until the 1920s. Oh, reports coming in. The technical difficulties have been repaired. So happy. You should know, the person who's just joining us right now who had technical difficulties, you should know ever since the message came in that you were having technical difficulties, we've been doing healings for your technical difficulties to end. So it's like, there we go, guys. There's the validation from nature that it's done. But now that's because I'm at the point now where I'm just going back and I'm describing what we did. So what did we do exactly? What's the mechanics? How did that happen? So how that happened was, for many generations, the nature of humanity to be incredibly compassionate and empathetic and sweet. Humans in our essential nature are a very, very sweet expression of being, and have been under this quality of sweetness has been sort of manipulated or used by the organizations responsible for dispensing information and truth to kind of grab our attention by making us feel like, by offering headlines and things that kind of make a person feel like, oh no, or ooh, or oh, or all various forms of those kind of emotions. Now, the thing is that what reporting really is the wholeness of creation, commenting on its own nature and reporting on itself, and communicating to itself who and what it is. And I could say who and what I am. You could call it I am. That's another way of looking at it. This does not have to arrive at anyone's door with discomfort attached. In fact, all the energies put forth to make it uncomfortable are really not necessary. I'm just feeling the transformation of energy. This is a transformation. It's taking place. It is affecting ancestors, many generations, different for different people in the group. It's affecting the circulatory system. It's affecting the heart. And for the ancestors, it's, I would say, affecting the heart chakra area. Most significantly, this is some self-communications, just like this energy medicine that we were talking about. Some self-communications don't ever get to the dense level of expression. And when we're in this part of the webinar, when we're in this part of the healing process where the energy is just moving, then for the sake of efficiency, it's looping down here at a fine level of creation. And so the loops, the feel of it is being offered back into the field, into divine being, as like a love offering, like a flower. And it is, I'm doing my best to describe it. It is a flow of compassion. It is a flow of respect. It is There is trust. I'm just describing the elements. I'm breaking it down. I'm breaking down it's like a whole package, like a matrix or like a crystal grid that's got all the different parts, but I'm breaking it down. So it's got respect and compassion. It's also got trust. I trust you. I trust you, being of all creation, to express yourself as cleanly and as refined and concise a manner, and a manner which is appropriate for me to understand. As I said before, we have lots of different people at different levels of connectedness with the kind of work that we're doing in the webinar. So the expression is going to be a little bit different for each person. This isn't just going to you, this is going to your ancestors as well. For most people, I would say almost everybody in this healing, it's going to at least 8 generations of ancestors, some people more. But we've got a minimum of 8 online. And their hearts are being soothed, and they are being comforted, and they are being appreciated for the incredible sacrifice that they made in their lives to make this moment of creation even a thing, even possible, that we can be here at this time doing, is amazing. It is amazing, and all over the world. So there's also some purification happening. There's some purification, and here's the answer that's coming back. You guys don't have to even ask questions. I'm getting them. The answer coming back is, how if I don't have the spin on the information? How if Divine Being is expressing? If Divine Being is always expressing in blissful terms, and there's no like shadow in there, there's no density, there's no part that's like slightly uncomfortable, then how do I express that sometimes I feel that way? This is the ancestors are saying this. It's like, they're just like, I have experiences and they're not fun. And it's not easy for me. And my life is challenging. I have a hard row to hoe. That saying came out of the last century, didn't it? Got a hard row to hoe. Yeah, it's a hard row to hoe. You know, what do I do with that? I'm looking. Here's where I'm looking. I'm reporting everything, guys, as we're going along here. I'm gently feeling united with the web of life because all the information comes through there. I am looking at all the shards of the broken mirror and the edges, the sharp edges of the shards of the broken mirror where the karma is sitting, where the separation is, where I've defined myself or decided that I'm not Divine Being, and the Divine Being is something out there separate, and that I'm just living my life as a human being on this earth with my hard row to hoe. I can't, I'm speaking for the ancestors. They're saying, I can't move my heart that way. You're asking me to move my heart and my heart chakra in a particular way so that I can feel a value or quality of love. And I can't. And I can't because it doesn't fit with my definition of reality. It doesn't fit with what I know myself to be. And we're replying back to this. It's a lot of ancestors, guys. We're replying back to them that all those difficult situations are not the reflection of your whole being. They're not the reflection of what you are. They're just the reflection off of a single shard of the mirror, okay? Just a little piece. So you can't define yourself on the shards, on what you get reflected back from the shards of the mirror. You can't, because you are totality. And your impulses of intelligence move in both directions, not just one. And this is the important part. Everything that you communicate, we communicate to ourselves first. So it's not the fact that you had to live through world wars, or that you had to live through times when there was slavery, or that you had to live through times when people treated each other terribly or inconsiderately, or where alcohol was consumed by a vast majority of the people in the population and, caused people to act irrationally and cruelly to each other. It's about how you responded to those experiences. This is what's important, how you responded to those experiences. And this is also very important. They're saying, no, but you're saying that I'm totality, so I therefore structured this thing and I'm responsible. I'm responsible for it. The answer is yes, because you wanted to see how you respond under duress. You wanted to know the experience. You wanted to know how much sweetness you could bring into a difficult experience. You wanted to know that you could be an angel in a field of darkness. And when you're an angel in a field of darkness, and we know that all of our ancestors are the ones who were able to get it together with other people and produce offspring, right? They were the ones who were successful. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been our ancestors. So we know that they were angels in darkness. They were. Of course they were. They were all divine being. Even the ones who didn't get together, they were still divine being. So divine being, wanted to communicate to itself how beautiful, how sweet, how compassionate, how empathetic, how loving, how strong, how tolerant, how precious, how adorable it could be, even when bumping up against those sharp edges, even in the presence of the sharp edges. So it makes the sharp edges, and then it bumps up against them. That's what it's doing. That's what divine being is doing. It's creating all these sharp edges and oh wow, that's what I look like. Oh, I'm an angel. It's saying to itself, this is what it does. The message is what you radiate. The message is what you radiate. And every radiation, every expression is an expression of divine being. It's either commenting on itself and creating the sharp edges, or it's bringing the sharp edges back to totality and saying, look, I'm wholeness. These are our 2 points of definition that give us, they start the roadmap of how we start to navigate through this abstract field of infinity, which is our play field, is our sandbox for creating and producing specific effects in the environment, in our physiologies, in our lives, in our world. Just as the person who was having technical difficulties got their technical difficulties resolved as we were doing the healing for that. So the web of life also healed. And I want to go back and check in on that, our patient, our client here. Because when we draw our attention into that aspect of self, we get to enjoy the other side of what we're doing, which is receiving. So we're radiating out information, but we're also being antennas. We're also receiving. And I'm asking, and when I say I'm asking, my necklace is migrating. When I say I'm asking the web of life, what I'm doing is I am feeling my attention, I'm directing my attention intelligently into the subtler level of my own being, where the web of life resides as myself. Lovingly, remember, as we said yesterday, the quality of devotion is a sort of underlying resonation of the approach to this part of creation, because this is what the web of life is about. It is a being of devotion. where the devotion is so deeply integrated that everything it does is an act of devotion. Every impulse of its life existence is an act of devotion. Just feeling it. And we want to look at, because remember, we didn't completely resolve with the ancestors. They were like, yeah, but we need the sensationalism. We need the things that pull at our heartstrings. We need those expressions in the media. We need those expressions in the way our world communicates with us, because it honors and it acknowledges our suffering. I'm looking. Our suffering. So our suffering is not about, oh, I had a hard row to hoe, but it's that I hoed it with devotion. I hoed my row with devotion. This is the thing. So what one comes out at the end of the row, what one comes out with is the devotion. That's the important thing. And now it's folding back to the end. Now they're getting it. I can feel them getting it. I can feel the ancestors getting it. What they're getting is the change that's taking place, the transformation that's taking place in their physiologies. And yes, even if they're not living in those physiologies anymore, it doesn't matter, because in energy work, we're working outside the constraints of space and time. The change that's taking place in their physiologies is a transformation of the heart in order to align with greater refinement and perfection, the resonation of devotion, that love is coming into its exalted state. We talked about yesterday, devotion is love in motion. It is applied love. Devotion is love applied. Some people's lives are such pure devotion. I'm seeing it awakening in everyone's physiology who's in the webinar, and how it's like you're just becoming beacons of pure devotion. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And the web of life, which is itself a being of pure devotion, whose life is a life of pure devotion, not self-sacrifice, not I'm killing myself over here for you, no, but a devotion which is so full of divine expression that every resonation of expression is absolutely beautiful. It's pure truth. It comes out in a form that doesn't make people suffer and struggle when they see the pure truth, but that just transforms the ignorance into knowingness. Ignorance into knowingness. And when I said the word knowingness, it comes out with another resonation behind it. It is that resonation, that sort of Shiva resonation. It is bringing the truth which is hidden down, it's covered up and it's buried, bringing it out into the light so that it is acceptable and accepted and it's digestible. So part of this healing is about a mass transformation for the ancestors of everybody who's involved in this webinar, and it's expanding through that body of that ancestral archive, so that it comes back into real time and affects your first cousins and second cousins and third cousins and fourth cousins, and like out into the field of humanity at this time, in order to make way for a flow of pure truth, pure knowingness, pure truth, pure information to come forward into the field of creation in such a way that it is easily metabolized. So that's one side of it, is how do we take it in? Like, can I get this? Can I receive this? If it's, as long as it's not fighting with my own belief systems, then I can have, then it's okay. I can fit it in. Oh, I see it clicks in right there. We're putting together a big puzzle. All the shards of the broken mirror, we're putting them back together. So the other side of that picture, so the one side is, how do I metabolize it when it comes in? And this shift is taking place. And it's taking place in lots of different areas of the being. The heart chakra mainly, but also the etheric body, because that's the part of your physiology that interfaces with your environment. And that's the part of your physiology that is essentially being embraced in this luscious hug of the web of life. There's a little loop. See, we've got loops going on, right? So you've got infinite being can loop up to different levels of the manifested self. Check out my second for more details on these layers. I'm holding up my fingers and people are like, what's that? So I just uploaded a video like last week about dividing the manifested field of creation into 8 layers. So some of the loops can go from infinite being up through various levels of the manifested expression of self. But in this case, we've got a loop like this, going right in here like this. So this temple, this holy space where we are in union with the web of life, it's contained in these subtle levels of the physiology, from this collective level up through the astral level of the physiology, and a little bit up into the emotional level too. That's where the purification is happening, and that's why for the ancestors it was a little uncomfortable. The emotional bodies were like, oh, I have some belief systems in my emotional body, not sure it fits. But now this has been cleared out, cleared that. So now the ancestors are able to receive. It's a huge upgrade. It's a huge upgrade. I'm seeing, for them, they're experiencing it happening at times in their lifespan when they were engaged in collective celebrations, marriages, birthdays, I don't know, holidays. For a lot of them, involved in various religious organizations, there's a yearly progression of holidays through, I know in Christianity. It is in those spaces, in those moments of their being, where the information slides in and where they begin to accept. And we all know that some families have a rough time at the holidays. And so again, it's that not so much what I'm facing and how difficult my row is to hoe, but how am I hoeing? Am I hoeing with devotion? And that's where it comes through. Hoeing with devotion. Sorry, it's not that funny. Anyway, the other part of the story is the purity of the information. And this is where we're going back and we're spending a little time with our beloved relationship with divine being is made manifest. It's made possible through our relationship with the web of life. So the web of life has undergone a transformation in this healing session. And now it is in a position, I'm checking, I'm asking. And as I ask, what I'm doing is I'm flowing, we're all asking. Thank you, everybody. Oh, you're so adorable. We're all asking through this restructured, spring cleaning, cleansed web of life, how do we offer our devotion to the source of creation, the birther of all the multiverse, the divine being, in such a way as to bring in a quality of relationship there that is so integrated, it's so tight, it's so complete, that relationship is established, permanently established. It is permanently and lovingly and completely the highest source of fulfillment for each of us. And if we can ask our ancestors too, I'm asking if we can ask our ancestors too, that they may also have that experience, and that we can use this sort of grid-like open structure that we've created in this healing that's supporting a flow of truth and knowingness, using it to expand that experience for everybody. So not just for us, we're not just doing this for us, we're doing it for everybody. To whatever degree anybody can receive it now, the answer that I'm getting back is that it's going to be structured right now in our webinar, and then it can go through some little transformations, because sometimes the healing happens. What we can do today is we can go into this deep level of creation and we can do the work. And then what happens is it's going to find its way. It has to break into an infinite number of shards. So that's going to happen. But when that happens, they'll all reflect back. And as they do so, the mirror comes back together as a whole mirror again. But that process, because this is big, and as I said before, it's the value, it's what I so appreciate and value about the live webinars, is that we do big, big work. So this is what is going to happen. This is where we're headed right now. And I'm going to do my best to define it clearly for everyone. Wish me luck. Thank you. So we're starting with devotion. Devotion has a completed form. Devotion has a body. Devotion has a body. It's not a physical body, it's a feeling body, but it is an integrated body that has its own defining characteristics. It has its own edges, if you will. It has its own range. And devotion is marrying. It's marrying the physiology. It's marrying the, that's my phone. Oh, okay. Luckily it's on silent. It's marrying the circulatory system. And it's marrying, I thought yesterday we did huge work on the endocrine system, so I was sure it would be the endocrine system. But the endocrine system is also receiving in this, because this will be an extension of yesterday's work there. Be sure, if you didn't catch yesterday's video, to go through and get that healing on the endocrine system, which of course everyone's receiving also right now who wasn't in on yesterday. But devotion is marrying into the physiology. It's marrying in at the dense levels of the physiology, because we've been working very kind of exclusively with the emotional through the subtle. Now we're working up in the more manifest, the more concrete levels of the physiology. Devotion is marrying the body at the systems level. And so all the systems, can it marry into all the systems? Devotion into all the systems. Devotion. And it's saying that in some of the systems, this is so interesting, some of the systems of the physiology, it's having trouble marrying because the definition, we have to restructure, in other words, clear illusion from some of the physical systems of the body, based on the idea that devotion is about self-sacrifice. And in this case, we're looking at pure devotion, the body of devotion as it resides at a very expanded, eternal, cosmic level of its existence. It's not about self-sacrifice. It's about action in bliss. It's about the bliss of self-communicating in such a way as to further pure expression of pure truth, refining the truth, making it more efficient. In previous webinars, we've talked about how our essential nature is knowingness. And I think it's interesting because we're kind of coming to the end of our hour here, that we started out this webinar talking about how there's this self-created commentary of infinity with itself, right? So it comments on itself, and the comment is kind of like an isolated point of expression that folds back and describes that which is indescribable. But even before that happens, even before, so we're getting way, see, we're moving from these levels where we've been married to and connected and integrated with the web of life. We're starting to move into the slightly more abstract level. So we're getting down to the celestial level of the body. So at a level before, prior to the self-created or uncreated commentary, we can call it. Uncreated in that humanity didn't create the commentary. Divine being itself created the commentary. Thank you to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for having discovered that. Before that, it's like the phase of experimentation where being is just, it's not even commenting on itself, it's just aware of itself. It's just aware that it exists. So that's even before the commentary begins. That level where wholeness or totality, and we can express it, since I'm speaking, as like awe, right? Awe. That wasn't I didn't make that up. That goes way back. Awe can then modify itself. Like that. It's still open and it's still flowing, but it's slightly modified, slightly like partially closed off. So we get these values of wholeness or totality that are still wholeness and totality, and they're still fully open, full truth, but they're kind of like playing in their own, it's playing in its own nature of being pure knowingness. So pure knowingness, knowing itself is pure knowingness. The act of knowing itself is knowingness. So knowingness, engaged in the action of knowingness, understands that it is knowingness. So we're bringing in this value of knowingness. And the reason that this is coming in right now at this point is that much of today's session, which I suppose I could have entitled this webinar something other than falling in love with divine nature, but it seemed appropriate at the time. It's really about integrating divine knowingness, divine self, divine being into all levels of what one understands oneself to be. How we self-define. How we self-define goes back to that simple definition. It doesn't have a lot of superfluous emotional baggage associated with it. Simple. Very simple. This is what we're falling in love with. This is what we're approaching with devotion, is knowingness. And the important point is that when we fall in love, we become one with the beloved. That's the end result. This is the upshot of this webinar, is to offer this experience of having become more deeply integrated. Physically, we worked with the dense levels of the physiologies. We worked at the molecular level of the physiologies with our ancestors. We worked out into the collective, is establishing a relationship, establishing, and all the ways in which we self-communicate. Divine being is communicating with itself, with every impulse of intelligence that moves through your being. Divine being is self-communicating. I'm feeling a lot of energy moving, a lot of energy, and the self-communication that's taking place is at this moment supportive of the most tender, the most sensitively delicate means. We're evolving. This is creativity. We're evolving. This is something that we're going to see come forward like in the next days, weeks, months, in this year. We're going to see this because we're creating it right now. The capacity to purify in a way which is so dense with devotion, so compact with devotion, that there is no damage in that process. It ends up not being a hard row to hoe. It ends up being a channel of pure knowingness to hoe. A channel of pure knowingness, which is intense bliss with every move of every muscle and every impulse of consciousness to interface. So, my dears, thank you. May every impulse of your life, may every thought, word, and action, may every experience of yourself be divine being experiencing itself. It is already, but may you enjoy it being that. May it be an act of such sweetness and fulfillment, just carrying you to ever higher and higher levels of fulfillment. Thank you so much for being with me. This has been a really, really sweet time, and I am infinitely grateful to everybody who participates in these webinars, because literally the big work that we do in these webinars wouldn't be getting done if it weren't for all of us doing it together, and it's really powerful and amazing. And so I will use the next webinars to expound upon and expand upon this work. I will orient them. I'll try to orient them in my descriptions, in the titles and the descriptions. And we will just keep flowing. We'll keep flowing forward with them. Thank you. Big shout out to everybody on the webinar subscription program. It's extremely valuable and powerful to have the integration of having some of the same people every time, many of the same people every time, because we are collectively becoming very, very powerful, and we're becoming more efficient. The work that we did today was some of the biggest work I've ever seen happen in a webinar. So thank you to all of you. You are awesome. I bow down to you. You are amazing. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. Thank you. I look forward to doing it again. Oh, lots of hugs and lots of hearts coming in in the description boxes. Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Email me if you have any suggestions, comments, or anything.